Hi everyone, it's Carolyn, here to share another channeled message from the Light Keepers, a group of angelic beings I channel for your awakening and ascension journey support. So today's conversation around all of this has to do with how we can take advantage of this time while we are in isolation, quarantine because of the virus, and use it for our greater growth and really understanding the continuum of working either from our human self or our higher self and everything in between, and giving you some ways to actually take a look at that in yourself, because what better time to do that than now? I mean, we are really, I guess I would say locked down in a way where we're able to observe very specifically what is going on in us and then how we react and behave. And are we working from a higher self perspective, or are we working from the very human, more, I'll just say 3D perspective? Now, I will say it is a continuum. We move back and forth and in and out. And I will share with you some of my examples on this journey. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these videos for your support during your journey. So thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you are doing well during these times of great growth, if we just allow it, right? So I'm going to read the channel, first of all, that is very supportive of the conversation that I'm then going to have with you with respect to working along the continuum and being able to identify that between the human self and the higher self. All right, here we go. Oh, the joy of life when all is good and well. The bitterness is not tasted, and instead only the sweetness of the flower of life. Expected it is that all of life's journey will be this way, overflowing with laughter and love and all the rightness in one's world that could ever be. Yet then, south turns to north, and the winds swirl you away. Your direction is lost, and nothing is there to see of what you once felt of the times of your life. It is then often when gratefulness ceases in one's way. Often found is only a disturbed view of this journey of yours. What then of gratitude? Might instead one find that within the fullness of life, it is not just the moments of bliss that count, but also the ones that come your way of breaking you down into pieces that you did not know you had, crumbled into dust, broken, lying in your own way. What to make of what is to come? And then, with new eyes in this time of great light, you take upon you to see that in the breaking down comes the seed of new birth in your way, struggling to come to terms with your plight, growing out of the experience over time, and to one day see how the new day of dawn, the joys that come again, were there all along, growing out of the darkness of those times. Now it begins, lifelong, looking back, grateful for all that was. So as I get into this topic, really thinking about how you can use this time where we're in isolation, we're not able to get out with others, we're quarantined, whether that be with your family or those you live with or alone. We can all learn from this. And what I would say is, don't ignore the things that are happening to you. Use them as they just said proving ground. Proving ground to determine, where are you in this continuum of working from your higher self or working more from the human self, and all of that in between. And often you're going to find it's all of that in between, because as we awaken and go through this journey, our goal is to really be able to live in that human form and work from the higher self perspective and be able to be that soul self in a human body and work from our highest nature. So this is a great way to check and see, where am I at on that continuum? Now, I realize these are extreme times, but like one of my friends said early on in my journey when I was not connected, didn't understand a lot of this is about 3 years ago. What he said was, there's going to come a time where light workers, our role is going to be to hold and anchor, stay calm, not frenzied, not panicked, be the ones that others can look to for a calm influence. Well, guess what? This is one of those times. This is one of those times. But yet we still have the journey of our own self, because a lot of this has impacted us, obviously, very individually. And what has that meant for each of us? And how have we transcended some of that? And how maybe we behaved early on? And I'm going to use some of my examples as well today to help you understand that for yourself. So what I'd say to you is take some of these examples that I'm going to give to you and take a good hard look at how you operate each day when things come your way. And the first thing I would say to you is, in looking at an opportunity to be able to really kind of analyze where you're at on this continuum of working out of the higher self from more the human self, is what do you feel? Okay, because when you feel dissonance, something other than that calm presence that the higher self offers us, you know that something's up. So it is a discomfort that comes. And so what I would say to you is, if a good way to start picking out the things to look at and analyze is, where are you feeling angst? Where are you feeling pain? What circumstances are you in? And then be consciously aware, check in and go, ooh, I'm not feeling the calm presence of the higher self of me, or of the me that I know, when I'm in that space of working more from the higher self. So am I feeling angst? Am I feeling pain? Am I feeling emotion? So that's a great time to go, okay, wait a minute. What's going on here? What am I working out of? And then be able to look at that shift and then change it up. And it is super hard too as a human, because we have emotions. And what you learn too is there's certain things, wow, that you're really used to, that now, since they've shifted and changed, there's a little bit of irritation underneath this. And I'll, again, share one of my opportunities that I had to learn more about myself. So the goal in all this is then to look at that, and when the situation comes up again, to change that behavior. Because okay, they just said a microcosm. Okay, so they're showing, all right, this is funny. You know how in science experiments, I don't know why they're showing this. Well, I do, but they're putting like a glass lid on something. It's like a terrarium, but a glass lid on something, and they're watching it, okay? Like we're watching it. So we're in that small space right now, where everything's contained within this, and we can see it more clearly. We don't have all these distractions from the outside, right? But yet at the same time, we're amped up a lot more for the potential of us working for more of the human self than the higher self. So how can we grow greater awareness of how we behave each day? All right, and where are we coming from in that? And where are we at in the trajectory of our own journey of working out of the highest nature of who we are, our higher divine selves, right? So what I'm going to do here is give a couple examples of where, and it's kind of a continuum of acting out of the human or acting out of the higher self, and then some examples to go with that. So one continuum is the very human, I'll just say myopic view, very personalized view, very self-oriented, the human side of things that can be to one extreme or another. Remember, these are all degrees, all right? And I'm going to use the extremes here. To the global view of things, of being worldly in your view, of understanding the bigger picture of your view, and everything in between. So this myopic view, the very personalized view of what this is doing to me, what am I missing out of my life right now, kind of throwing a hissy fit at times. And I'll bet you we've all been there at one point or another and either stopped ourselves right away, because I'm going to tell you right now, for most people, this came out of the blue and is not all, roses for everyone. We didn't go right from, oh, so this is a thing, this is our event, to, oh, it's all love and light. I wish I could say I did, but I didn't, because that shows we're human and we're working through that experience of being able to manage our emotions, our feelings. And so this myopic view of it being extremely personalized and what am I missing? And, throwing out the kind of I want it my way or the highway, that no longer exists. You can't just have things your way in the way that things used to work for you. And the perfect example of that is my experience I just had grocery shopping online. Okay, so this was such a journey for me in just doing the online ordering, because they don't want us to show up at the grocery store, even though we can with our masks on and everything, but they don't want us to. So the point is I thought, all right, I'm going to order online. And I already felt my resistance when I started to do that. And the reason is I shop usually every day. I do. It's just me. I shop at my local co-op. I love to go there because it's just a fun place to be. Now, mind you, I haven't been doing that over the last 3 weeks at all, but I have been going about once a week. But then I realized I don't think I should go at all. So I thought we'll do the online ordering. Anyway, so I will just shop for what I need. I don't know how to shop for a week. So I went to get online to do my grocery shopping. Oh my God, I could feel my anxiety, my tension. And I knew this, like the higher, and this is what gets interesting as you go along this journey. It's kind of like there are two of you inside yourself. Your higher self is going, wow, look at you. Ooh, look at you. Really acting as the human. Ooh, and kind of very childlike and selfish-like. So I could feel myself doing this thing of, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. I'm not going to be able to tell what my fruit's like that I'm getting or blah, blah. I could tell that. But at the same time, I was like, yep, but this is just the way it is now. You can adjust to this and be grateful for the things that you do have, that you have a lovely co-op, that you have those beautiful people that still want to do this work for you. Oh no, I was not doing very well this morning with that. I was not doing well at all. And I could tell my days were starting to get like this. And I was feeling like I'm just going to go. I'm going to wear my mask and I'm just going to go because other people do it too. So I was starting to do that justification thing like, it's okay, I'll just go. No. Because that was a very personalized approach to I want what I want the way it always was because I was comfortable with that. But my higher self is like, no, no. And I know you guys understand what I'm talking about, particularly those of you who are further along in your journey and you've gotten to this point where you're like going, I'm kind of living out of my higher self. Oh, are you? Are you all the time? And so this is that journey. So anyway, needless to say, I ended up doing my full order online, but I was tense throughout the whole thing. I was tense. I was, well, I could go on and on about my grocery shopping habits because I shop when I see things, right? Like when they're in front of me, I'm like, oh, I need that or I want that. It's not a planned effort. So this was really hard for me. Anyway, my point in this is myopic view versus, looking at the global perspective of things, being able to understand that other people are involved in this and what are you doing to participate in this. And again, I'm using the virus as my example, but once this gets passed and we get back to whatever our new normal is, you're going to be able to use this as you move forward in your day-to-day and learn from this experience of where you've worked out of your higher self or not. And where are you at on the continuum? And certain things are going to stand out more than others. Certain things are going to be more triggers to pull you back into that human way of reacting. So this is a very more selfish kind of thing versus selfless. Myopic view of what's occurring to the global view of what's occurring. And being able to be a cog in the wheel of something greater than the own wheel of your life. All right? So what I realized in this just now, before I did this video, is, okay, I have some work to do on this. I need to sit with the fact that I have lived a privileged life in the sense of the things that I have. And I am grateful, but clearly I miss out on some pieces of this, and this is part of that journey. I think I just took for granted my grocery shopping at my co-op. Now, that may seem like a really silly example, but it's not when you think about it, because the little things that we used to take for granted are really coming to the surface. Things you can't have now, right? I don't know, your latte at your corner coffee shop that you go to every morning before you go to your job. Those things were just like, oh, you just go get them and off you go. And sometimes you don't even think about it and you don't even enjoy it anymore. It's just part of what you expect. And then when it's no longer there, boy, does that bring you, or not so much no longer there, and maybe that is the case, certainly it can be in this situation, but it's shifted and changed so it doesn't fit into what you want in your life. Oh my gosh, I am so there in spades with grocery shopping. So anyway, I wanted to use that as an example. What continuum are you on there with respect to kind of that myopic view? And you can look at that when you're starting to react from something. What do you feel? What are you sensing? Is this all about you? Is this all about what it is doing to your life? How it is impacting you? And I'm going to tell you, I can't imagine we all haven't been there to one degree or another. And then being able to move out of that, identify it, and then realize, wait a minute, there's this global perspective. And so some of these things are similar, but they still have a continuum of their own and are a little bit different. The next thing on this idea of being able to look at yourself from whether it's you're operating out of the human perspective or higher self perspective, is in the human perspective, there's a lot of unawareness, okay, of kind of what's going on. Again, it's very insular. It's more, a little more self-serving, selfish, thinking again about you, but again, not being aware of what's really going on around you, and not understanding the pain and suffering of others in the global community. And this goes day to day, not just with the virus, but the point is not that we have to live in that space, but what it's doing is helping us as we move into our higher self, realize we're part of a global community. And there's a lot of suffering out there. There's a lot of angst. There's a lot of pain. Are you at least aware of the fact that the global community exists and you're part of it? You're part of it. You're not separate from it, right? So we move in and out of that. We move in and out of that, we really do. And as we go through the awakening journey, we realize we almost live in that space of global thinking, connectiveness. We are one. And not that it's a Pollyanna view. Again, we move in and out of this to the part of sometimes kind of being unaware. Now, I've gone through this journey myself during this situation with the virus where And we have to do what's right for us, especially for those of us who are empathic. But I stuck my head in the sand for the first 3 weeks of this. I really did. I was like, this isn't a thing. And I think I've mentioned this before. This isn't a thing. This isn't going to be a thing. And I think a part of that for me, what I realized was sometimes I don't want to admit that there are really nasty things in this world, or things that are brought to us that we have to learn from that aren't pleasant. Okay. I have a little struggle with that. So I did a ostrich in the sand thing where I was kind of looking at it from out the side of my eyes going, okay, nah, this isn't a thing. So needless to say, unaware. Now this doesn't mean you have to go dig yourself into the news every day, not at all. But the point being is being aware, and you feel it in your heart chakra. And like I said, those of us, and I think most of us awakening, are feeling that connection to something greater than just our own selves. As we move through the awakening journey, that's what it's about, connected into the one. And as we go through this, boy, does this virus and this time really force us to connect in there, in our heart space. We feel it. We collect those energies that are out there. Globally, you can't not help but feel it to one degree or another. It really yanks you out of your unawareness, I guess I would say, or has that opportunity to. So again, that continuum of acting out of the human versus your higher self is, are you aware? Are you just turning your head? And yes, there is a degree of that where I've talked about this previously, where we have to realize how much that we can handle for ourselves. And that's being an empath. That doesn't mean that you're sticking your head in the sand, you're aware, but you also know how much to take in. But also having that perspective, this is something global. We are all in this together. We are one. Where are you at on the continuum of that? And you're going to go in and out. Nobody sits over here all the time at the higher self level, reacting out of that 100% of the time. We still are in this human life. We are working to blend that higher self way of being in with the human life and operating out of the higher self. But every now and then, because we are human, we're going to poke back in. We're all going to move back and forth on this continuum to one degree or another. So take some of the things that are going on in your day and analyze them. Where did you act out of emotion? Because that's a great way to tell. Where did you act out of like irritation, emotion? Are you starting to feel it? What are you irritated about? What are you feeling anxious about? What is this about? And then be able to spend some time with it, because this is such a way to launch you forward in really connecting in with how you behave. Another way to look at this continuum of working out of the human self or the higher self and anything in between is working out of the human self very much can be the judging of others. And oh my gosh, during this time, yeah, we're doing it. Versus letting an individual have their own journey. Not overreacting to their choice. Now, this gets tough in this time, depending on whether you're one that says, well, yeah, we should all be wearing masks, and then we should all be doing this, we should all be doing that, we should all be this, right? And then when someone isn't, in whatever way you are thinking, that judgment comes in. And yes, it can come in because part of us will be thinking, well, am I safe? Is anyone safe if people don't do this thing? So my point in that is, this is actually kind of funny, and I know I'm pointing out all my parts of me that need work, but that's how I learned, by telling you so that I can then reflect back on myself. But the judging of other people's reactions, this is so interesting. I literally went from the head in the sand, not really thinking this was a thing, and then I noticed people starting to wear masks when we were out. And in Iowa, again, we're still able to be out, but we're not supposed to be, shopping, doing all those kinds of things. Needless to say, even walking, I noticed people were wearing masks. And I remember thinking, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, I don't think that's necessary. And I was like, so I could feel myself do this thing of, well, why are they wearing a mask when they're out walking? Well, then higher self pops in. I mean, literally, this is the combined conversation. Higher self pops in and goes, yeah, but you don't really know what they're experiencing in their journey. What if they're a high risk for this virus? What if they have health situations that they're dealing with, or they have loved ones that are dealing with that, or maybe they're worried about giving it to you? So I was doing this thing. Oh my God, and it is exhausting. Many of you may have already experienced this, where if you're aware that this is going on in you, then it's exhausting. And so what I then flipped to within the next few days was the opposite. And I realized, oh my God, I'm still judging others. So I now got a mask on. I carry it with me all the time. When I'm walking, put it back on. When I see other people, blah, 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 I wear a mask, right? And now I'm thinking, when I was in the grocery store the other day before I started online ordering, I saw some people without a mask, and I went, I cannot believe they don't have a mask on. And I was doing that thing. And yet at the same time, it's kind of hard to say, well, that's their journey or that's their choice. And yet, I guess in these times, I do feel like the global perspective of things is an important thing to be aware of. But my point in this isn't what's right or what's wrong to do. It was that I was judging them. So here I go again. I was, without the mask or with the mask, I was doing some kind of judgment. And I quickly noticed what I was doing. And I thought, why don't you just leave it alone? It's not your job to be able to say at all, even in my thoughts or out loud, it'd be really great if you wore a mask. That's the job of the people that work at the co-op. That's not my work, all right? And that's not saying you don't want to speak up on occasion, but the point in this is it's the idea of judgment and how we actually do that. And yes, I do realize sometimes we do act out of what we're deciding upon, what our judgment is of another. And in this case, with health being a situation, it may be very appropriate to speak out. But again, you're going to find your own pieces of this during this virus, where we're judging others all the time in little ways or in big ways. So what I get to then is this idea of being the observer as you're working from your higher self. And many of you, including myself, have had moments where now we're starting to, as we move further along in our journey, we're experiencing that comfort and that beauty and the no angst and the no worry, the no concern of being able to see what's going on, watch others, watch what's happening globally, and be the observer stepping back. It's almost like you're watching a play. You're still involved as like an audience member, and yet you are not pulled in the emotional way that can so often happen to the human part of us. And the emotion, the angst, the anger, the all those feelings that are coming up, then you get pulled into that and you act out of that because you're in that churn, you're in that tornado of emotion, and you feel it. The further you go along in this awakening journey, the more you get connected to your higher self and you stop acting out of the human. You're able to step back, breathe, and go, oh, wait a minute. look where I'm going. And then you're able to step back and be that observer. Super hard. Probably one of the biggest lessons we have in humankind. And I, for one, I'm very much, I've mentioned this in another video before, where I get engaged very easily. Like, I like to have conversation, I have opinion, I like to debate. So I'll engage myself as there's a conversation going on, no problem there. But what'll happen is I'll feel myself get pulled into emotion, and then I start responding out of that emotion versus being that observer sitting back and in many ways maybe contributing when you've collected yourself and you've not let the human emotion run you over. Now, we see this day to day in everyone. I mean, forget whether you're awakening or not. There are many people that are very well attuned to being able to sit back. And a lot of them, honestly, are introverts. I am not an introvert. I'm in the middle there. But introverts have a beautiful way of being able to be that observer and to then, when they speak, people listen. Because they speak when they really have something to say. They don't usually speak out of huge emotion. Extroverts, oh yeah, we do. So it's interesting to think about yourself. Where do you fall on that continuum of introvert, extrovert, and how does that affect you in how you let yourself either be the observer or get pulled into the emotional conversation and then act out of the human? So again, back to observer versus reacting from our emotion, because we've gotten pulled down the rabbit hole into that way of acting that is really kind of typical for humans, out of our emotional state. Whereas the observer allows you to start becoming the master of your own emotions. It doesn't mean you don't feel emotion. It means you're able to master how you actually react and, in a way, what you see. So another, I guess I'll just say, continuum of working from the human versus working from the higher self, and again, everything in between, is, as I mentioned, this idea of emotion. When you feel fear, when you feel pain, when you feel frustration, anger, sadness, and we do feel that. It's not we're getting rid of it, but that is a very human way of being. And again, we have our emotions for good reasons, and we want to feel those emotions when they come. But where are you at with also being able to pull in the calmness, the peace, the anchoring, the solidity of who you are as the higher self into this experience that we're having now? Because as my friend said that I mentioned early on in the video, we're going to have times where we as light workers are being called to our mission, and that's to anchor. That's to be able to manage our own self in this, to be able to hold the calmness, to be able to be solid, to be able to anchor. That doesn't mean we don't feel, but it means that we're able to manage ourselves better and be that strength for others, whether it's through words, whether it's through actions, whatever it's through. How do you share your light during this time to be a stable presence for others? Now, as we're going through this awakening journey, we're all at different stages of this. And it takes a while to kind of get there, to get to that place of feeling that way. I'm not fully there by any stretch. I go in and out of this. I'll have one day, and I swear every day's different. I'll have one day where I am like the best example of my higher self I could ever imagine. And then, I'll pat myself on the back, and then the next day I wake up and I'm doing that whole thing again of feeling all those extreme emotions, which then don't help me in how I react, and also don't help me in my own mental state or carry forward in how I look at things that are happening day to day. And lastly, I want to mention another way to take a look at what you're acting out of, human versus higher self, and or everything in between. Because again, I go back to, we're moving through this continuum all day long to one degree or another, is as the human, we're starting to think about what's this going to be like when we get back to normal. Start looking out into the future, start thinking, start wondering, start worrying, start thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be different. How's this ever going to happen? How's this going to be? How are we going to go back to sporting events, large group events? What about the festivals? What about the concerts? What about? Found myself doing that the other day. I was like a year out in my head. I'm like, and I was totally anxious about it. then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this opportunity we have in front of us now, if you want to call it that, with this virus allows us to be in the now moment, to realize that that's all we have right now. We have this moment. We can't plan anything. Don't try to project out anything. When we do that, we're really working from the human with respect to the timeline continuum of past and future. So what happens is the higher self really pulls you into the now moment, because that is what we have at this time. And I always go to meditation, really allows you to start bringing that view in and being able to look at the now moment, and you're less focused on the past and the future. So the point being here is that this is another way of you to be able to tell, where am I at on this continuum of looking at things that are occurring now during this time in humankind from a human perspective versus the higher self perspective, and really look into the future, spending time in the future or the past of what you're missing versus this now moment in time is very much a human condition when we do that. And so now we're all being pulled into, this is what I've got right now in front of me. There is no planning. There's really no planning, because we do not know, and it's okay. And it's really uncomfortable, and it can be very, I'll just say depressing because your mind will take you down the rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, this is blah, 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 and you'll make up this story of the future that you don't even know. We don't know. So we've got to take this moment in time now to take a look at how we are reacting to everything in front of us. And again, we are in a real microcosm right now. We're in our homes for the most part. We're in our homes. We're acting out of the human and higher self one way or another. What better time to take a look at yourself under the microscope, so that when you come out of this, imagine how much you will have learned and really understood and studied who you are and how you're working together with the human and the higher self. So that higher self is leading you, but the human is there for the journey. That is what we are here for, to be able to experience divine presence of our higher self in a human body. So I hope you have enjoyed this today. I so appreciate you being here. And as I always will remind you, check out purplerainhealing.com. I have a couple specials going on right now because of all this. I've got a $45 30-minute distance energy healing with an assessment, and also give you a channeled message from the light keepers for yourself. So it's a 30-minute session. I would love to work with you. It's a special I'm offering through May 31st. Additionally, I've got the rest of my services on there: channeling, distance energy healing, and spiritual awakening mentoring, where I work with you one-on-one to help you launch forward in your awakening journey. So thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you. I wish you well. We will get through this together. Thank you so much.